Good morning, happy Sabbath. Happy New Year. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be among the living. As in Lamentation says, we are not consumed, not because we are good, because of God's mercy. It seems to me that many people do not realize, maybe even some of us, or we don't realize that God really did something great for us. We crossed this threshold of 2016, and it brought my mind to these thoughts from Patrick and Prophets describes the destruction of Sodom. At the very moment when Lot was taken out and he went all the way to Zoar, the bright rays of the morning seemed to speak only prosperity and peace to the cities of the plain. The stir of active life began in the streets. Men were going their various ways, intent to the business of the pleasures of the day. The sons-in-law of Lot were making merry in the feast and warning of the weak-minded old man. Suddenly, beside all that, suddenly and unexpectedly, as would be a thunder peal from unclouded sky, the tempest broke. The Lord raining brimstone and fire out of heaven upon the cities and the fruitful plain, its places and temples, costly dwellings, gardens and vineyards, and the gay pleasure-seeking throngs that only the high night before had insulted the messenger of heaven. All were consumed. The point why I'm reading this, you might not see that visible change, but plans of God, the clock is ticking, and His coming is approaching every single day. You don't just met another year, another day. You are step close to His coming. No matter if I or you are ready or not, He will come. And no matter what, and based on what you have done in your life, being alive here, the way how you prepare your character would be destiny decide based on that. But just put aside what we just said for a while, and I would like to take you to first book of Samuel, chapter 7, verse 12. Very timely. And when Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shen, he named it Aben-Ezer, saying, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12. Open your Bible with me, please, and follow. We'll have some readings today. Samuel took as a sign of victory when they had obtained victory over their enemy of God. He put that stone and said, look, he didn't say that we made it. Nothing like that. All what he said, thus far the Lord had helped us. Can we agree with Samuel? Absolutely, absolutely yes. I know that we have mixed feelings today. Some of us are joyful and glad and happy. Some of us have some thoughts that comes back, and we revise our life. We analyze what was done during this 2015. Did we accomplish God's agenda, or we just being pursuing our own agenda? And in that note, I would like to take you to Nehemiah chapter 8. Nehemiah chapter 8, all the way from 5 through 11, but I'll read just some of it. In time of Nehemiah and Ezra, Ezra was a scribe, and he was, Ezra blessed the law. The book of the law was given to him, and he was teaching people of Israel, those who came back from Babylonian captivity. And people are very receptive. Verse 8, so they read in the book of the law of God distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading. Exactly what we're doing here, no? We're trying to. And Nehemiah, which is the Tishhatha, and Ezra, the priest, the scribe, and the Levites that thought the people said unto all the people, this day is holy unto the Lord your God. Mourn not, nor weep, for all the people wept when they heard the words of the law. Question, I'm just pause here for a while. Why they were weeping? Why they were crying? What caused them when they read the law? Ezra read the law, they were listening, and they were crying. Why? Their lives were far away from what they hear. Brethren, I believe it's time for us today also, not to reap, according to Joel, not to reap the clothes, but to reap our hearts and sacrifice ourselves, sacrifice our lives, to dedicate those who didn't make the commitment yet, or rededicate those who've done it before. Today is a day, because tomorrow is not yours. Yesterday is already history. You have only day of today. And continue reading. Then he said unto them, go your way, eat the fat and drink the sweet, and send portion unto them for whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy unto the Lord. Neither be ye sorry, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Amen. I'd like to leave you with this one. Just enjoy being in the presence of God's people and God himself. So Levites and encourage people, saying, hold your peace, for the day is holy, neither be ye grieved. God encourages us today to have the best day of our life. This is Sabbath day. Because he is coming close to us and he wants us to enjoy it. Enjoy it in this day. The new year, it's a day when we are making our resolution. Resolution, in other words, the promise that we want to take. We set up our goals. We saying, okay, in this year, since January 1, I will do this, and this. Statistically speaking, very few people who keep that one. Usually people giving up week, 2, and that's it. That's it. Brethren, I'm not saying that you should do some unreasonable promises, but do one step at a time and do reasonable promise and keep it. We have some suggested resolutions. Brother Antoine, you have it? No, you can share those who want it. I'm going to read it here, and we will talk more during our service. I have 10 of them. Number 1, remember, this is just suggested. Resolve to stay faithful to Jesus Christ. He is the one truth, way, and life. There is no reason to look elsewhere. Resolution number 2. If you need more copy, we can make it later. Number 2, resolve to not let anything, a carrier, a significant other, social media, a house, become an object of worship. Number 3, resolve to prevent burnout by putting aside work 1 day a week. Trust God to provide for your need that day and just enjoy the time He is giving you. In other words, 1 day at a time. Number 5, resolve to talk to your partners or parents on a regular basis and show them love and respect. Number 6, resolve to be angry less. Channel any feelings of rage, which Jesus said are as severe as murder, into worshiping God and serving others. Number 7, resolve to honor your commitment to your spouse, whether it's the thought or in deed. Stay pure and loyal in the union God made. Number 8, resolve to not take anything that is not yours, including stuff you can hold and put in your pocket, and plenty that you cannot like like music, downloads, streaming movies, and hours of your time card. Number 9, resolve to speak about others only with truth and love, not gossip. Number 10, resolve to be content with what you have and not worry about that others are amazing. Like I said, it's just a suggestion. You can take some, you can take all, you can add to this list. But you can, if you start with this one, there would be great advantage. You know, we are by nature, do you know that we're built in, we are born with built-in sin, and our nature is corrupted, and we're looking at ourselves as a special object, and we are very little tolerating others. In 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 1 through 7, the story is written. Nathan was a prophet in time of David, and he came to visit king. And he was asking for an advice. 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 1 through 7. His story goes like this. There were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, save one little a lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took his poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come to him. That was the story. Now, verse 5. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said to Nathan, as the Lord liveth, listen to this, the man that had done this thing shall surely die. I ask myself, I want you also ask this question. Am I not possessed the same spirit as David, who wants justice to someone else, and a justice right away? I don't mind God to take care, but if he prolonged too long, I don't like that. I want to take justice in my own hands and do it now. So did David. He said, that man must die for things. It was not even against, what David was talking was against the Moses law. Because in the Moses law, if someone stole or took someone's sheep or lamb, he's supposed to pay back. Maybe double, maybe 4 times, but never was talking about the death penalty. But David went over the range. He said, no, he is not deserving to live. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did these things, and because he had no pity. Verse 7 is a critical one. And Nathan said to David, thou art the man. You have to have a courage to say that to a king, no? Who can do to you just like that, who can take your life, who did take life of his best friend and was not ashamed, not hesitate to do it. He was doing him other things. Thus said the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And story goes on and on and on. My point lesson for us today, that we are deserving punishment as the one upon whom we pronounce that punishment. But we don't see ourselves as God sees us. We always like to portray ourselves in better light. When somebody is asking you to tell them about your background, your past, you never bring the negative stuff. Some things may be vague, but not exactly what was happening to you, how you mess up and how shameful you was at that time. You trying to portray the positive ones. That's how you are. That's how we are. There's no exception. We try to hide those negative. Do you know the Bible proves that God, as we studied last time, remember the 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 10, God will bring before the judgment every single person, no matter what you did, good or evil. Jesus Christ goes even further. He said, for every single word which you say, you're going to be accountable. Okay? God is continually benefiting us, but we are too indifferent to his favors. We have been loved with an infinite tenderness, and yet many of us have little love for one another. I'm reading volume 4, page 222. We are too severe upon those who are supposed to be in error, and are very sensitive to the least blame or question in regard to our own course. Hints are thrown out and sharp criticism to one another, but at the same time, the very ones who thrown out this hint and criticism are blind to their own failing. Matthew 7:3, very well-known verse. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but consider it not the beam that is in thy own eye? Bible is a very straight book. Bible is not going around the bush and trying to appease us or make it suitable for me or for you some things. It's very straightforward. Daniel chapter 4, verse 27. Chapter 4 describes a king, a very mighty king, who had a dream. Huge tree, and the voice was, cut it down, leave the root for 7 periods. And Daniel was the one who interpreted that dream. But he said, to your enemy I wish that dream would be, not to you. He said, tell me the truth, I want to know the truth. And he said, you're going to be in exile for 7 years. And after 7 years, you're going to be living as a beast and all those things. After 7 years, God will bring you back. But what I was really wondering or surprised in this one, Daniel was not ashamed to give an advice to that mighty king. Verse 27. Therefore, King, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thy iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. Advice was taken. For how long? For a while. For 1 year. It says, after 12 months, when he was walking on the top of his roof, looking down the palace, what he built. Can somebody read me that, Sister Dana, that verse, when what he was saying there?
Is that 31?
Yeah, somewhere there. Is not this my hand?
While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from
No,
heaven.
one before.
Oh, the king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty?
Brethren, we are living today in 21st century, in 2016 already. We know the judgment upon us, okay? We know the verdict. We do have advice even given in the Bible. Read the Revelation 3:17. We have all the needed instruction how not to fail. Just as the king of Babylon had. And we keep our resolution promises for a while. He kept for 12 months. It's a long period. How about you? For how long you've been faithful to what you said? Lord, I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again. This is the big question. And the consequence was brought upon him, as God said it. So the same thing will be upon me and you as well. A point is very simple here. No matter how, maybe God would prolong the grace period for you, but it will come. You have to pay the consequence no matter what, sooner or later. And because God is postponing his judgment, people, including us, I'm not saying we are unique, we take advantage of that. And we prevail, we're more aggressive in doing evil because the punishment is not coming right away. Do you follow me when I'm talking? Or I'm not talking to us. I mean, maybe they are, we are not. Unfortunately, that is very true. You know, there are many characteristics that we have in the Bible given to us that we can learn our lesson. And just briefly, I wanted to bring to your attention that in King Saul, the first king of Israel, he issued a decree when they were in the battle. Nobody should eat anything until we obtain the victory. And his son did not know that. He was not around. He didn't hear it. Okay? Jonathan. And he did eat some honey, and the king knew that. He was informed. He said, my son's supposed to die. And people stood up, protect the poor man. I want us to read from Patriarchs and Prophets some things about his character. Why, when we were casting such a severe judgment upon others, what really is going on in our own life? Page 625. Saul could not claim the honor of the victory, but he hoped to be honored and for his zeal in maintaining the sacredness of his oath. Even at the sacrifice of his son, he would impress upon his subjects the fact that the royal authority must be maintained. In Gilgal, but a short time before, Saul and presumed to officiate and as priest contrary to the command of God. When reproved by Samuel, he had stubbornly justified himself. Now, when his own command was disobeyed, though the command was unreasonable and had been violated through ignorance, the king and father sentenced his son to death. We overlook our own mistakes, if I can use soft words, and we are very eager to judge someone else. Those who are most ready to excuse or justify themselves in sin are often most severe in judging and condemning others. Many, like Saul, bring upon themselves the displeasure of God, but they reject counsel and despise reproof. I'll skip some. They cherish proud, boastful spirit while they indulge in cruel judgment of severe rebuke of others who are better than they. Well, would it be for such self-constitute judges to ponder those words of Christ? With what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye met, it shall be measured to you again. Matthew 7:2. Often those who are seeking to exalt themselves are brought into position where their true character is revealed. It was in the case of Saul. I'm really concerned. Any promotion, anything which you take, which you go, remember that's a test. If you fail, that would be devastating. One great defect in the character of Saul was his love of approbation. This trait had a controlling influence over his action and thoughts. Everything was marked by his desire for praise and self-exaltation. His standard of right and wrong was the low standard of popular applause. Sad to say. I want you to take to Genesis chapter 6. We've learned up to now that the new resolution for New Year should be done by each of us and should be kept, not occasionally. The main one should be how to treat people the way how we want someone to treat us. The golden rule should be Matthew 7:12. You know that. The way how you want people do to you, do unto them. And in book of Genesis chapter 26, we find out a very fascinating story about the son of Abraham, and his name was Isaac. Isaac was dwelling in the land of Canaan, and there was a famine at that time there, but for some reason God didn't let him go to Egypt. He wished to go in a land where his food was plenty, but for some reason, as I said, God kept him here. And God says, you have to sojourn here, and I'll be with you. And verse 6 says that Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And there's some other things. I'll just focus on the main topic for today. The way how they treat him. Verse 12, and Isaac sowed in the land and received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks and possession of herds and a great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. That was the key, like a spark from where it begins. They were envy to him. For all the wells which his father's servant had digged in the days of Abraham, his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with dirt. What would you do? You are blessed by God. God is on your side. You have a lot. You have more than people around you. And here are somebody that don't like you. They openly are against you. Isaac had not only one problem. His father just recently died, and his own son Esau messed up with some. He messed up his birthright, and he married some not godly women, and there's more than that. Famine, and as soon as things get a little hard, we wanted to run it. Isaac wanted to do the same, but God said, no, you're going to stay here. What did he do? Verse 18. And Isaac digged again the wells of water which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. What did Isaac do? Did he fight with them? Did he claim that his father was doing? He dug another well. He cleaned up the ones which was closed. Okay? And continue reading. And Isaac's servant dig in the valley and found there a well of springing water. Verse 20. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, the water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they dig another well, and strove for that also. And he called the name of it Sitnah. And he removed from thence and dig another well. And for that they strove not. And he called the name Rehoboth. And Rehoboth. Yeah, we have Rehoboth here. And he said, for now the Lord had made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. It's a great lesson, I know. I believe we all read this many times, and we were pity for Isaac. But what lesson can we learn for us? Number one, few lessons I want us to read today, to learn today. Now, lesson number one, digging another well is not a sign of coward, to show your cowardness, but a sign of compliance. Romans 12, 18 to 21. Open with me. Romans 12, 18 to 21. God tells the individuals to do everything in their power to prevent strife. If it's possible, okay? If it's possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Of course we have excuses. We have excuses. He started first one, I was not part of that, or I was in a short fuse, or you name it. There are so many things that we say. But Bible says, if it's possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourself, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, said the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, what to do? Feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For if so doing, thou shalt heap coals of fire on his hand. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. I believe this would be the best New Year resolution, to live peaceably. As much as lieth in you. Live peaceably with all men. What does that mean? It kind of gives us a room not to live peaceably with everyone. And we're trying to find that loophole, and we say, that's exactly what the Bible says. I cannot live with everybody. Brethren, there are some situations that you cannot do much, okay? You try to reconcile. You went extra mile, extra 2 miles, and you did all what is possible from your side. You didn't cross your arms like this and waiting till he or she comes and apologize for things. You went. You remember that Bible verse, once you bring a sacrifice, and remember that your brother has something against you, go and reconcile first, and after bring a sacrifice. It's so important to start the new year with new heart, with new commitments, and clean up all those garbage which you are pulling behind you. If you remember the Pilgrim Progress, John Bunyan, the man who was carrying the backpack, heavy ones. He barely could walk. And now when Jesus makes him free, when he lost that backpack, he was literally flying. Reason number one, to dig another well, this is not a sign of cowardness, but a sign of compliance. Do you agree with that? If you have to leave, not to argue about that, I don't know, piece of cloth, car, or anything will happen in your life, just move on. And Isaac dig another well, and another well, and another well, and another well. There was not like to pick up the phone today and order the machine come and dig a well for you. It was handmade. It was a hard work. And the soil was stony. It was not that easy. It was a not one-day job. We don't know how. I don't want to speculate about it. I'm just presuming that was a very hard job. And water was very precious. Because where the water is, then life. And they found a spring with living water. I'm not sure exactly what does that mean. But looks like very good water. And they left it as well. Point number 2. Digging another well is not a sign of compromise. Isaac did not lose any ground by digging another well. He knew God in his time was going to give it all to him. Ecclesiastes, very known verse. Did anybody get that promise today? God will bring everything in his time. Yes. He has a timing. Is not matching always with your. Ecclesiastes, I believe 3:11. What is? 3:1. 3:1. Okay, 3:1. There's time for everything. Digging another well is not sign of compromise. Compromise when you compromise the truth. When you give up your convictions, that's compromise. When you begin, for sake of peace, to do what others are doing, that's completely wrong. I'll go with my spouse for that party just to show that I love him or love her, but that's already compromise. Remember those 3 boys who said, with all the respect to you, dear king, we will not bow down, we will not worship to this image. And because they were firm, because they stood firm, the king worshiped to their God. That's how it works. That's only how it works. You have more things to do for God than to involve yourself in battles that you cannot control. It is not a sign of compromise not to involve yourself in battles that belongs to God. Too many Christians want to fight God's battles. Too many Christians want to do God's job. Remember what we read in Romans? The vengeance is mine. I love this Psalm 23. I will set up a table in front of your enemies. If you give God a time, He will bring your right up. But if you begin to fight for yourself, you will mess up every single thing. When they need to move, and let God give them what they need in His timing. Point number 3. Digging at a well is a sign of compassion. It is a great Sermon of the Mount. Our Lord said, "Blessed are the peacemaker, for they shall be called the children of God." Are you the one? You should. You have to. Otherwise, how else you will get in heaven? Never mistake peacemaking only without the shedding of blood. Sometimes peacemaking only comes from shedding blood. We make peace with God through the shed blood of Jesus Christ. When you decide to move on from your disagreements with people, you are only revealing your compassion for people, knowing that God deals with people better than we do. The advice on this matter is, if you cannot convince someone to agree with you, and you know that based on the Bible you have a right on that point, just look at them as a doctor is looking on his or her patients. That's all. Or like parents looking down to their children who cannot understand yet. They're kicking and crying, they refuse to eat and do these things, but parents still show compassion toward them. Point number 4, digging another well is a Christian. Another well shows Christian maturity. Ephesians 4:32, and be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Ephesians 4:32. I'd like to take you back to Romans 12, 17-21. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of man. We didn't read 17, we just read from 18. Now I want to take 17. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it's possible, as much as light in you, live it peaceably to all men. When challenged with difficult times, God's people have an opportunity to exemplify their Lord. If you get fired from your work and you know it's not your fault, just move on and dig another well. If your children, they grew up and you have misunderstanding, just move on and dig another well. What can you do? What can you do? If you are false accused, God knows you are innocent, so just move on and dig another well. If you had your car repossessed, if it's your fault, just ask God's forgiveness. Don't blame people. Lord, I didn't keep my payments, but you know why. If you will move on and dig another well, eventually you will find Rehoboth. You will find that if you will learn to move on through your adversities and disagreements in life, God will eventually find room for you to make peace and to do great work for Him. Amen. I'd like to address young people, not to be content when God gave you so much talents and has a great expectation from you. Young people succeed so often in this world because they don't know it cannot be done, because they have no sense to know it cannot be done, and they try and achieve. One young man, but all our plans should be brought before the Lord. One young man said, I didn't want to share my dreams with the Lord. And he was asked why. God might spoil my plans. I want to be a pilot. And what if He would not me to be a pilot? That's why I don't want to ask God's permission. I'll pursue on my own. It sounds childish, no? I don't want to share. Someone says, if you want to make God laugh, tell Him about your plans. So the same thing, this young man, he said, if you want to make God laugh, tell Him about your plans. He knows, laugh. He knows your plans. That's about young men. The church vision has to be based on Acts 1:8. And ye shall be witness unto me both in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Samaria and in unto the utmost part of the earth. We as a church have to have Samarian vision and Jerusalem faith. In other words, we have to look beyond our personal realm, I would say, and trust that God definitely can use us. I know the money what we're collecting even for the project, the first Sabbath offering today went to Ghana. Some other time went to different places. You don't know how much your money can make. If you cannot do personally, do monetary. Pray for the projects. God has resources. You got to believe in that. Psalm 1, verses 1 to 3. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. God has a lot of resources for each of us as individual and as a church. You have this in your bulletin, on the back of your bulletin as well. The next paragraph, I would like to read it. Double-minded men and women are Satan's best allies. Whatever favorable opinion they may have of themselves, they are dissemblers. All who are loyal to God and the truth must stand firmly for the right because it is right. To yoke up with those who are unconsecrated and yet be loyal to the truth is simply impossible. We cannot unite with those who are serving themselves, who are working on worldly plans, and not lose our connection with the heavenly counselor. We may recover ourselves from the snare of the enemy, but we are bruised and wounded, and our experience is dwarfed, minimized. You are limited after that because you cannot be used for many offices. Dear brethren, we're coming to the end of our study. I really want us to realize that we have to move on in our life and do what is right. You don't have to apologize for truth. I'm not saying that that's what we just read here. But you have to present a nice way and never go in alliance with anyone who disregard the law of God and mock at God. You cannot stay firm. We have to run like there is no tomorrow, because tomorrow we never know what is tomorrow. And if you are not using today fully, our day, our opportunity, then we will lose. Unfortunately, millions of people have a religion based on superstition. They put their trust in some outward factor as their hope for heaven. What does that mean? Such people will sadly be disappointed. Others trust in inherited religion. Daddy was a pastor, mom was a Sabbath school teacher, and so on. But that doesn't say much. They act as if salvation is inherited, like you inherit the color of your eyes. It doesn't work that way when it comes to salvation. No one else can believe for you. You have to believe for yourself if you want to go to heaven. There are things that looks impossible. You know, Igor Sikorsky, he was an engineer who built the helicopters. Even our president using those machines. He had a post on his desk. According to the law of aerodynamics, the bumblebee cannot fly, period, because the proportion of wings and body weight is just impossible. But the bumblebee does not know that. anything about the law of aerodynamics. So it goes ahead and flies anyway. Brethren, people might put you in a box or make you some limits, some artificial boundaries around you. But if you serve Almighty God, nobody and nothing can stop you doing it. Just move on and dig another well. Just move on until you reach Rehoboth. That should be your purpose in this 2016. Remember, there is nothing too hard for the Lord. No coalition can stay against God. Zephaniah 4:6. Then he answered and spake unto me, saying, This is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. May God bless you all and make you not just successful, greatly successful, prosper in 2016, and be a missionary for Him. That many people in your own family, in your neighborhood, will come because of you. Amen.